Good morning.
Good morning, Jonathan.
How are you feeling?
Really good. Had a good night's sleep last
That's
night.
good. You need a good night's sleep. This week must have been a whirlwind for you.
It was. Am I shaking? I don't know. Yes, it was.
A lot of emotions, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Thank you for taking the time to come share with the community members. I mean, this is fresh off the press. You are in like your Super Bowl focused, giving, loving, and it's great you could share right now.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, interesting thing, your parents liked to have children.
I guess so.
How many siblings do you have?
I have 9 siblings, so that makes 10. I'm the third child.
Third child. Out of 10, you may be the third child, and there's a theory on if you're the oldest, you're like this, if you're the middle child, you're like that, and if you're the youngest, you're like a certain character type. I would say if you're 3 out of 10, you're basically one of the oldest. Yeah. And your parents are very religious.
They were. They were not there, or they were.
They were.
They were, yes.
So interesting thing, your father was a missionary.
Yes.
So tell me about how you grew up. Share a little bit about that, because it's different. I think about 40% of the room here lived in Japan and then came to America.
Right.
But you're the opposite. When you shared just
So my parents met in the Navy in 1945. At the end of World War II, they married. My father went to Biola College, which is in Southern California, and we became a family of missionaries. So my father and mother and 3 children by then, I was the third child, set out for Japan. They became Christian missionaries. I was 8 months old, and that was in 1950. And so it was close to, just 4 years after World War II ended. So you can imagine what kind of situation it was. Very, very rural feeling. My father spent 1 year in Karuizawa, in Nagano Prefecture, learning the language, and amazingly, he learned so well. The first place we went to was a very small village called Mochizuki, Shimagawara, which was the town that my father's language teacher lived in. And he so happily would go out and witness about Jesus. And one of the small villages not far away, maybe about 30 minutes by car away from us, was a place called Mochizuki. And in that town, in that very small village, I remember a hillside, and my father built a church there. I don't know the whole story, but one young woman around 16 years old was part of the congregation. She became a Christian, and she came to, when she was, I believe, around 18 years old. So let's say she was 16 when she became a Christian, and around 18, she came to Tokyo to study in a Christian college. While she was at a Christian college, she was witnessed to by one of our early Unification Church members, and she became one of our very first church members, Unification Church members in Japan. Believe it or not, she's sitting right now in audience back there. Little lady, her name is Chizuko-san. Chizuko-san, can you stand up, please? Yeah. So Chizuko-san is the wife of Michael Runyon, who is also sitting there. Michael, can you stand up, please? The husband of Chizuko. I believe we need to get to know them because they're older members. So that's where I started in Japan, living.
She was witnessed to by your father?
She is my father's spiritual child. Can you believe that?
Wow. What are the odds of that? Holy moly.
I know. I didn't find that out until a few years later when I was Mrs. Kamiyama, and that's a whole story. But over the years, whenever I saw Chizuko-san at different places, she would always say, "How's my spiritual father?" And the last time, when just after my father passed away in 2006, I said, oh, he went to the spiritual world. And then when we moved to Las Vegas, I found out that Chizuko and Michael were moving to Las Vegas too.
Isn't it crazy? Your families have like this parallel things. I think maybe great-great-grandchildren are probably all going to get matched together or something like that. Can't help it.
No.
So you were a white girl living in Japan after World War II.
That's right.
Was that awkward at all?
I loved it. I loved everything about Japan. It may have been awkward to other people, but we were young kids growing up in Japan. We went to a Christian school, basically American, missionary school. So we grew up from first grade through 12th grade in a school in Tokyo called Christian Academy in Japan. I'm still in touch with those people. I went to the 50th high school reunion 4 years ago, and we're still alive, and we're good. We're doing good.
Incredible. So, and you learned Japanese?
I did.
And you spoke Japanese?
I did.
Wow. Different. Yeah. Kudos to you, because I got blessed with Japanese. I'm still kind of working on it.
Yeah.
One time, True Father said to all the American husbands, who's not learning their spouse's language? You're all arrogant. I'm arrogant. Wow, that's incredible. And then, so we want to get in a little bit into your faith journey. So tell me, when did you start exploring your faith and your heart to serve the world? So, because you have a tremendous love to care for others. Where did that come from? How did you develop that?
Probably long ago from my parents. Who knows? From the spiritual world. I don't know. I really don't know. But I still lack a lot. But yes, I was traveling. You want me to talk about traveling a little bit? Okay, I traveled to a dozen countries from 1973 to 75. And during that time, they were all in Southeast Asia. So you can imagine, well, let's just name the countries. Japan, Korea, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Philippines, Thailand, Burma, India, Nepal, Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia, Bali. I was in Bali for 2 months, but I think I'd like to talk about one experience. This was kind of in the middle of my traveling. I traveled to Kolkata, India, and it was right after Burma. I had already been to many third world countries, if you want to call them that, and had deep experiences. So I was on the plane, and I didn't know where I was going to stay when I landed in Kolkata, but I landed, and in the airport I met a couple of people, and they said, well, you know, we're going to stay at a certain place. You want to stay at that same place? Come with us? So then I didn't have to find a place to live, to stay. But as I was coming in through the city, on the bus, coming in through the, what do you call the streets, I was just like so shocked. I couldn't believe, oh my gosh, this is real. All these streets, these people are so poor. Oh, look at the way they are. Oh, I was greeted at the airport by people with no arms and no legs because that made them a better beggar, you know. So the first night that I stayed in this wonderful bed and breakfast, it was actually the home of I'm so nervous I can't even think. Tagore, Rabindranath Tagore, who is the famous poet who got a Nobel Prize in 1903, I think, or something like that. So anyway, the home was just an old English home. The ceilings were really high and everything. So I spent the first night crying the whole night, looking up at the geckos that were racing across the ceiling, and the fan was going around, and I was saying, Heavenly Father, I can't believe it. This kind of situation exists. This kind of hell is here. And I was just, oh my God, what kind? And I got very little sleep that night. And the next morning, Mrs. Singh, who was a woman of the Baha'i faith, who had this bed and breakfast, she said, well, Mary, it looks like you didn't get very much sleep last night, and well, I am going to go out today. Would you like to go with me? I'm going to visit these ladies. We would call them in the slums. And she went every week to these ladies, and she was teaching them about birth control and many different things, and they loved her. So I went with her, and after a meeting with all these people in their little huts, and we got back in the rickshaw, and we were going down the road, and she said, do you see those people all lined up along the road? And they had tin bowls in their hands. And I said, yeah, a long line of people. And then as we got closer, the rickshaw kept coming closer. And then she said, well, do you see that little woman in the robe there, in the sari? And she was like behind this big, huge pot. And as we got closer, I could see that, yeah, she was there. And she said, that's Mother Teresa. Would you like to meet her? And I said, of course, yes. So we got off the rickshaw and went over there. And she knew Mother Teresa very well. And she introduced me. And Mother Teresa said, oh, go up to the children. So the children were in the orphanage. And then also there was a home for the dying there. So I went to the where the children were. And of course, I never forget that first feeling of holding that child that said "mama" to me or something, and I was holding his snot was coming down his face, but it was like that feeling I never ever forgot of loving someone. And then I knew that Mother Teresa had loved all those people that came for the home for the dying. They were like along the side of the road, and they picked him up, they brought him to this home, and they spent their last moments with love and being taken care of. Some of them even lived and lived on with their lives, of course. So that was the moment that I said, okay, this is what I want to do. Yeah, I want to serve others. Yeah, I had already worked with many important people. I worked in the Japanese consulate in Portland, Oregon for 3 years, and so my boss was the consul general, and I met the ambassador, and I met the governor, and this was like, I was just in my early 20s, but I said to myself, no, that's not me. And I just love taking care of people, I said. So I did. After I finished traveling, I did all kinds of things. That's another story, right, Jonathan? Yeah. So that was the beginning, I guess. Yeah.
Awesome. And I just want to ask for our audience, can everyone hear her okay? Is it good? Great. So then, that's a tremendous experience. You got to meet Mother Teresa. You got to see that. What an experience of just heart serving others. I mean, yeah. I can speak probably for the whole community. You have like a Mother Teresa spirit with you. I think when she went to Spirit World and realized, oh, shoot, how can I get connected to stuff? And she's like, I'm going to work through this person. That's right. How did you meet the unification faith? So you went on this journey. You want to serve others. What happened there?
About a year later, I had gotten, even though I grew up in Japan, I'm still an American, and I had to get a work visa for Japan. So got a work visa for Japan, went back to Japan, and in 1975, as I was in Shikoku in Japan, Shikoku, Tokushima, I was teaching English in a school there. The International One World Crusade had just finished the big Yoido rally with True Father in Japan, and they come, many teams in Japan. So they came to Tokushima, which was a small place. I was an English teacher. I was riding my bicycle around, and I saw all these foreigners, and I go, I got to avoid them. So I would go around the other way around the train station, but it seems like when I went this way, I'd meet someone, and that way another person. By the third person, she was like smart. She watched me, I think, the whole time I was teaching English upstairs, and she figured out when I was coming down, and then she got me, and we had coffee, and then from there, I heard lectures here and there. They tried to put English lectures together for me.
English, right?
Yeah, in the beginning. I went up to the bowling center where they were staying, and Then a few weeks went by, and the whole team had to leave to go to Nagoya. So I said goodbye to them, and they kept contacting me on phone. How are you doing? Are you studying principal? Of course, during that time, I was like crying all night long and praying to God and saying, wow, this sounds really good. This is really, but I don't want to do it. I have things to do. I'm not going to. And then again, I would just get those feelings. And so when they called, I said, I can't go to Nagoya. What are you talking about? I'm the teacher here, the only teacher. I can't leave. Oh, no, you can. So I did. I finally did. I went from Tokushima. I went on the ferry across to the main island, Honshu, to Nagoya, and went to a Japanese workshop there. But before the Japanese workshop, they had a whole 7-day workshop set up just for me in English, and I went through that. And then anyway, they said, you got to go to a 3-day workshop in Japanese. So this time I went into the 3-day workshop in Japanese. And because I can't read and write Japanese so much, I'm always writing in Roman letters, So if I heard a word I didn't understand, I just write it down. And I was writing, and suddenly, when the lecture about Jesus came up, I put my pen down, I was listening, and tears streaming down my face, and I said, oh, this must be it. I guess I got to do it. And I was just feeling very deep. And the lecturer kept looking over at me, and he said, Miyari-san, wakarimasu ka? Wakarimasu ka? And he could tell I was understanding about Jesus because I was crying. So anyway, and then I joined the One World Crusade, came back to America in December, I think, of 1975. Yeah.
Wow. So you're in a small island town, right? Where you're teaching?
Yeah.
That must have been big, just yeah, I'm leaving, bye-bye.
Oh, it was really hard.
Yeah, everyone must have been like, where are you going?
Because they were always, oh my God, it's a whole long story, but yeah, it was really hard to leave, yeah.
Also, you must be a little bit of a celebrity, because in Japan, everything's pretty uniform, looks the same, and then this bright white light shining around. Must have been hard.
When we grew up, we were always, definitely, yeah. They would talk about us on the train, and we understood everything they said.
We experienced that too. In Japan, people think my wife is American, so they'll talk about us, and then Yuri will tell me all the stuff that they're saying.
Yeah. So good.
So then, so then you joined. You came to America, blessed in 82?
1982, blessed, yes. Mm-hmm.
And then what kind of mission did you do? Where did you then spend the following years?
Well, yeah, I guess that was I spent a few years as a city leader. I went to see my husband. He worked at East Garden in Tarrytown, New York at that time, so I would often go to visit him. I was on the IOWC during that time as well. So, there's a whole lot more, but...
We're kind of fast forwarding.
I know. So let's see. What was your question? It was
so before moving to Vegas, what was your main mission and time that you spent doing?
Okay, so my husband worked at East Garden since 1974 when he was 21. Now he's 69. So he never stopped. His mission was at East Garden, security and other things, and I was teaching a lot, teaching preschool and Sunday school and Camp Sunrise and all kinds of things. And yeah, I was really fortunate. I was the teacher for a lot of the grandchildren, and among other things. Yeah, we used to help it at East Garden a lot. Whenever there were events and birthdays and things like that, we would be in the kitchen and things like that. Yeah, and yeah.
And always behind the scenes.
Pretty much, yeah.
I know, your husband always is serving, can fix things, can do things, but he always just kind of he likes to stay in the background, just likes to serve and not be.
We're definitely the same on that one.
Wow. So you spent a long time there. Why Vegas? Why moving to Las Vegas?
Well, after True Father passed away in 2012, Mother asked my husband, Mamoru, to come and take care of the property at Chonhogung. So we did. it was real hard for me because I had just graduated from college, and I was like, I had my ideas I was going to do some things, Even though I was old, I was like 61, and, maybe I'll teach a few years. Well, it never happened, but so.
Let's actually pause right there. So you were a teacher, you left. You never went to college when you joined.
No, I didn't go to college.
But then you just said you graduated college. In what year of your life did you start going back to college?
I was 55.
Wow,
yeah.
55.
My daughter was just starting college. Yeah.
And you went together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's clapping, but I don't know, a lot of young people are like, oh, I'm so glad my parents didn't go to college with me. You went to college with your daughter. How cool is that?
Yeah. One time I remember I was in an early childhood class and she was in a French class. And she came out and I came out during the break time. I think it was to drink water. And she said, "Hi, Mom." And my classmates were, "Oh, that's your daughter?" I just remember that one.
That's cool. And you got your degree, but you didn't stop, right? After one degree.
No, I got the early childhood degree, and then I got a bachelor's and then a master's, yeah.
Wow,
Teaching
master's
English
degree.
as a second language, yeah.
Amazing. And how old were you when you got your master's degree?
61.
61. So for all of you who are under 61 but over 40, step it up. She's pacing you here. No excuses. And so you came here because True Parents called you to come here.
Yeah, that's right.
What did they ask? What did they ask of you?
Oh, to take care of the property and to take care of I think True Mother was familiar with what my husband, Mamoru, could do, fix everything. And it's hard to say why exactly, but she did call us both. And before we left East Garden, she called us, and we talked for about 15 minutes with True Mother. She was saying things to Mamoru and to myself, take care. Yeah. And, yeah.
And off you came. And you guys have been serving that role since 2014.
2013.
13.
But actually, we arrived December 25th, 2012.
Wow.
So it's 10 years this December, yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Mhm.
So all of those experiences you've had, attending True Parents, behind the scenes, you must have had personal experiences, those kind of things, serving at East Garden, teaching camps, schools, working with the True Children, even coming here, again, serving, doing those kind of things. Any experiences stand out with you, with your own experience with True Parents?
Of course, there's a lot, but the one thing that I'm grateful for was when my daughter went to STF, which is like, what do you call it now? GPA. Okay.
We call it a watered-down version of STF. That's what we call it.
And during that time, I felt led to go to the East Garden kitchen every morning before Hundoke to serve, wash dishes, cut things, whatever you'd need to do in the kitchen. So I would be there every day. Mother walked through the kitchen to go to the waterfall room where Father would be speaking or they would be reading. And I believe she saw me because after 40 days, while I was probably washing dishes, the sister came down from upstairs and said, "Oh, Mary, Mother wants to see you." I said, "Whoa, wants to see me?" Okay. I couldn't believe it, but okay, so come with me. And so went upstairs to see True Mother in their living room, and she came out, and she stood. And when I walked in, she was sitting down with some clothes, and then she stood up, and she came over to me, and she said, "Oh, this maybe fits you, or maybe too big, or I don't know." Listen, she put it up to me, and it was a pair of pants and a shirt, and I was like, "Wow, Mother's giving this to me personally. It's just amazing." So then it was just very casual. And Mother said, "Okay, no," like you're a child, and I don't know if she said thank you or whatever. And so then I came downstairs and I realized this is a precious memory, because many times we saw True Mother. Everybody saw True Mother now and then, I'm sure. But to have some little thing that was personal. So that was, yeah. So that was in 2005, I think. That yeah.
And that's after like 30 years almost of serving,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Always being behind the scenes. I could imagine if I'm in your shoes, it may be, first of all, you're behind the scenes. You don't need the praise. First of all, that's a very unique quality. A lot of us, we need to be recognized. We need to be praised. We need to be honored. But to be able to go that long without the praise, without the recognition, you must even wondered, does true mother, true parents even know who you are? Do they even notice you?
Well, I knew she did, but I knew she knew my husband. I was always like so proud of my husband because he's the one who had all these experiences with the two children and with mother. Oh, with mother too. When he was like early years in the church, mother was like in her early 30s or late 20s, and so think about that. How old are we here? Even some of the experiences I had, mother's 7 years older than me, so all I have to do is subtract 7 years and say, oh, what was mother doing at this age? Something like that. So yeah, we had those experiences, but yeah, not that personal necessarily. And that wasn't important.
Right.
Yeah.
But I could imagine how special it was for you to work so hard and then have that personal experience with your parents where they notice you, they recognize you, and they care for you.
Yeah, yeah. It was almost like, ooh, do I deserve this? Kind of feeling.
You do. And specifically, I want to touch upon your most recent mission because we've been working on the Heavenly Parents Holy Community Project now for a little over a year.
Yeah.
And the whole goal is we need to just be able to create the true love that we talk about. We need to substantiate it in our families, in our communities, in our lives. And a big part of it is be willing to serve someone without needing anything in return. And I really felt, you even shared with me, you had this inspiration or calling to serve, Miss Beatrice Benson during this final stages of her life. I wonder if you could talk about that. When did it start? What inspired you to do it? And what was it like?
Well, Beatrice worked for 10 years in East Garden, Belvedere when she was in her 40s, mid-40s to mid-50s. Remember, she died at 89. So we knew her. We who were on the staff knew her. Those pictures yesterday, there was a picture of Beatrice, myself, and my daughter, who was less than a year old. So we've known her all my daughter's life, for sure. And so then when we came to Las Vegas, so I'm going to go way many years later, in 2013, I started to rekindle my relationship with Beatrice. This time she was in a wheelchair and buzzing around, and she had her whatever it's called. I call it electric, but it's not. Anyway, motorized wheelchair. And so I started to get to know her. I'd sit next to her in Sunday service, and I'd bring her lunch, and then I'd walk with her as she buzzed up to the front gate to take her ride on the paratransit. She was always the first one to come to service. She watched everybody set up and things like that. And that was the biggest thing for her during the week was to come to Sunday service. This was already, she was in her 80s, remember? And she was already disabled. So then every once in a while, I'd go see her, at her apartment, or with her birthday, whether it was her 84th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and the latest one was her 89th birthday. And so we were close, and it was to fast forward to just a few months ago, around November, I realized that 2 times already, Beatrice had been frauded. She either, one by giving away her money to someone she didn't know who it was, and then the next was a check, and that was, she put in a check for the church, and that was stolen, and then there was another kind of fraud that happened.
And so
Yeah.
people took money from
Yeah.
an 89-year-old lady.
So then we realized between B and myself, she said, "Well, can you do it now? Can you do my?" So I got on all her bank accounts and everything, and eventually I got the durable power of attorney, and then what was the last thing you get? Financial power of attorney, so that I could take care of everything. It was just like, oh my God, it worked out so perfectly. Yeah. You can ask me another thing about.
Yeah, so you were with her. How many times a week would you be with her in the last few months?
It depended on the situation. When it was at her place, a lot of times it was on the phone, and she'd call me and she said, "Mary, can you come today?" And okay, what do I need to do today? Okay, I need to go see Beatrice. That's what I need to do. And then, times that she needed me.
So on an average week, how many times would you be going to her place?
Not every single day. I can't even. If you look at my calendar, you can see maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Okay.
Maybe, yeah.
And when you were there, you'd bring her food? I know.
Yeah, just because every time you go, you got to bring something, right? So it's either my own food that I made at home, or something from Sunday service snacks. Sometimes I'd load up my handbag and bring things to her but you know what she liked the most was Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yeah.
Or McDonald's spicy chicken. So don't bring her the wrong thing. Don't bring her Popeyes, and don't bring her something else, just because you think she might like it. Well, she's not going to like it because
she got like healthy food, right? And you told me she would feed
yeah.
you the healthy food, and she would take the KFC.
So I just went into her freezer and I said, "B, can I have one of your Meals on Wheels healthy foods?" So I didn't eat her KFC. I ate her healthy meals.
And so when you would visit her, how long would you stay?
Often, I didn't intend to. I intended to stay 2 hours maybe. But if I went at noon and got home by 5 or 6, that was normal. That kind of ended up. Because, with her little googly eyes, she looked at me. And it was like a puppy dog, those little eyes. "You have to go?" "Yeah, I have to go." "Okay." So then
My kids do that too, by the way. It's very powerful. Feel so guilty, like.
So kind of like that. So then I would take homework home. I would take her files home and go home and shred and figure out what we don't need to keep and stuff like that, and mark down stuff, Because she wanted to talk and stuff when I was there, or, yeah.
And we had the Songhua ceremony.
Yeah, yesterday.
How are you feeling now, processing everything? Because that was you knew her for a long time, and the last few months you were there for her all the time, even bringing stuff home and doing work for her. And the last couple weeks, I imagine she's in a lot of pain, so it's not easy even being with her. And
also because I didn't know how long she was going to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you prepared if she was going to live another 10 years, that you were just going to keep on going?
Well, she was going to go to a nursing home.
Yeah.
That was so sad to think about that. And I was just so, if you go to a nursing home, I know my own parents were in a nursing home. They don't have time to take care of you, All those little things that happen to you, they might come 2 hours later, So already I was talking with Lorna, I don't know if you all know Lorna. We had already talked about how we're going to serve her once she gets in the nursing home, Can't go every day, definitely not. Maybe once a week, And I was thinking, maybe some people can help me take care of her. But anyway, she didn't make it to the nursing home, thank God.
Doing all that, attending her first song, so attending East Garden behind the scenes for a long time, coming here, taking care of the Chunwalgung property, just attending behind the scenes, serving, Miss Beatrice Benson, long time, last months of her life. What drives you? What drives you? What gives you that power to keep giving, serving, loving? What's your drive?
I can't think of anything else except love. I remember one day I said to Sarah, I think love her. It was just like, it's not a duty. It's like, literally, you love this person. And there's so much joy after you've done. Like if I was called by her and said, oh, Mary, can you come today? I was going, oh, okay, I got to come today. I was going to do something else, okay. And then I would get to her place and I would see her face. She's old. She's 89 years old. I'd come in and I had a key already by that time. And so I see her and suddenly everything was like lifted. It was like joy, like, okay, hi, P, how you doing? Hi, Mary. Well, how the way she said it, I'm sorry, I can't always repeat. With a southern accent, Mary. I don't know. Just a sweetheart. She's a real sweetheart. She was in a lot of pain, but every time people would see her. So with me, she didn't have her teeth in. She didn't have her hearing aid on. She didn't do those, because those were like extra things. You got to put in the teeth. You got to put the hearing aid on. So the whole time she was in the hospital the last 3 months, I had her hearing aid and I had her false teeth. So she, yeah. That means she could hear well, because everybody went to visit her, and yeah, she was hearing pretty well, right? It means she saw well. She didn't need those strong glasses. And it means that she still has some teeth of her own, because she could chew. If you took something hard to her and you'd say, B, is this a... She'd look at you like, oh, what do you mean? I got teeth. So it was true. She still had teeth that could chew on those hard things like corn or whatever, or Kentucky Fried Chicken with the bones.
Right after the Songhua ceremony yesterday, I was like, okay, I have to do it. I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken. Like first time I ate there in like 15 years, something like that. I know
what you mean. I don't eat at KFC either.
I really, talking to you, hearing your story, I remember when you first shared with me that you were doing this, and you just said, Jonathan, I feel like I have this mission from God, and I have this just joy. I want to do it. I'm going to become her primary caretaker. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be responsible for her books and those kind of things. And yeah, I just think this really exemplifies the heart of loving others and taking care of others and loving the community. And it's not just this. You do many things to support our community. You come to events. You take care of property. It's always behind the scenes. And many times, you're not the one to speak up and say, but I think everyone can feel the depth of your heart and also how many knowledge, experiences, and things you have to share. So on behalf of the whole community, thank you for being a part of us. Thank you for sharing. We appreciate you, and we love you.